completed with this, and I'm very happy the way that she's come out. Basically ended up, it took a bit longer than expected because we basically ended up rewrapping it all over again. We left on your original Toyota puts on like a tube spragging, if I can put it like that. Yours was in very good condition, so we left it when the actual initial work through on the harness was done, and then I thought, no, I just wanted to get it all so that everything looks all very uniform and so on. So let me go through all of this with you. I'm going to start on the right hand bank. We'll start off down here. So you've obviously got your O2 sensor that'll run through, okay, and it comes up and it bolts onto your cylinder head over there, okay. And then there's a split out. Now this is what we add in. This is for your alternator. I haven't plugged it in here because this is actually I think it's a 2005 or 2004 2UZ. So I've got the square connector for the alternator. Yours has the oval one. Okay, so that'll just plug straight into the back of your alternator. And then coming up here, you've got another tee-off, another one that we've added in, because this normally on a Land Cruiser, this runs through your actual body harness. So this is for your airflow meter. Okay. Then coming up here, you've got your EFI water temp sensor. This is another one that we added in. This is for your water temp, or your engine temperature, your water temp sensor for your cluster. This is a standard Toyota connector that we've put on here. Yours is probably, it may have just like a stopper plug instead of having a sensor in there. If it does, just screw that out, get one of those sensors. They're not expensive. You can buy, if you need the part numbers, you can just ask me, but you can buy them on eBay or Amazon or whatever. They're really not expensive. Coil connectors, all of them have been, none of them have been replaced. All of them, there was nothing wrong with them. Okay. We did replace all of your injector connectors because you had the blue. What they did originally is they didn't use a silicone gasket in them. They used like a plastic, almost like a soft plastic as a seal. And what happens is those seals end up going really hard, and obviously don't perform as a seal any longer. So we replaced all of those. You also had a couple of the tabs, the lock tabs that were broken off. Okay, so yeah, that goes around here. We'll get to the ECU in a minute. You have an earth strap on this side of the head, so one on the right hand side, one on the left hand side. Okay, just make sure that both of those are tied in properly and tight. This red cable coming out, this is, I think it's an 8 gauge that we use. Yeah, it's an 8 gauge that we use, and that needs to go directly to your battery. That is your main power supply for your battery. Okay. Let's go through the motor, then I'll go back to the transmission. Same thing over here. All of your injector connectors have been replaced. Coils, nothing. Okay. We still need to replace this one. Just the tab on this one is broken. I see you wanted a lot of the old connectors. I mean, I can send them to you, not a problem. A lot of them we actually cut, and replace. So we actually break the connector open. I don't know if you want them, but yeah, just let me know. They're going to end up going in the trash anyway. Okay. So yeah, you've got your TPS, your throttle control, basically. And then you've got your accelerator pedal sensor. This connector was also replaced. Yours, I think, was completely missing. You had a couple of connectors on this harness that was completely gone. This is for your cam position sensor. Okay, that one was replaced. This one wasn't. This is for your aircon. Okay, so all of these triggers and whatnot you'll have on your client plug. We'll get into that now. This goes down and it splits, and you've got one that goes to your oil pressure switch, and you've got another one that goes to your crank position sensor. So this, you can either use a switch like this for your light if you've got a low oil pressure light. Same connector if you've got a gauge, but then obviously your sender unit changes from a sensor to a sender. So then it'll give you a variable resistance rather than just an on and an off. Okay. But if you need anything there, you just let me know. This is just a bridge that I've put in here because on this harness I run a different setup for the starter motor. Okay, so this is basically just the solenoid for your starter motor. Your harness, we've gone through that for you. So here is the connector that would plug into the back of your harness. Okay, and in there we've added in your starter, your solenoid connector, because that usually ran, again on the Land Cruiser, it ran through the actual body harness. And now all of that's been incorporated into your engine harness. And then obviously your two knock sensor connectors have been replaced because they always end up pretty, pretty brittle and whatnot. But yeah, that's a pretty simple harness. We've removed everything that doesn't have a purpose in there. That's just going to be plug and play. You just put that on, plug it into the back of your engine harness, and then, yeah, it's all rock and roll from there. Okay, so automatic. You've got this section of harness that comes out, and you've got these three connectors. You've got another one that comes out here. This goes, I've put in another bridge connector here because my selector switch is the oval one, and you've got the rectangular one. So I've just put that in just so that we can start her, okay? But this will plug straight into your switch, and then she'll only crank over if it is in park or in neutral, okay? This connector is for your oil temperature for your transmission, okay? And then these go down. So here you've got your input speed sensor, and that's all that's on this piece of harness, right? The rest of it all runs through this. I've plugged it in because I want to run her, and I want to show you that there's no error codes. So this goes to your solenoids, and it goes to your output speed sensor. This is all slightly different because I'm running a two-wheel drive on here. So this is all for your switches and whatnot on your transfer case. I've left this in for you. You've actually got two of them for your secondary O2 sensors. You don't have to use these. They have been removed from your ECU. Okay. And then all of this goes to your transfer case. Okay, so you've got your engagement lights and whatnot. You've got your actuator. Yeah, you've got all of that. And then here you've got your speed sensor. Okay, so that should all be basically plug and play for you. Okay, that covers the engine side. Coming down here, we go down to the grommet that goes through your firewall. Okay, and you've got a T-piece coming out of there. You've got your fuse block, right? So this houses all your relays and your fuses. So within here, you've got your two top ones over here are your main relay and your EFI relay. Okay, you've got your two relays for your fuel pump control. Okay, and you've got your starter relay, so that's for your starter motor. And then here's all your fuses. We've broken all of these up, so you've got separate circuits, more so than what you would really find in the standard vehicle. It's just easier for diagnostics if you ever need to. In the bottom of the fuse box, everything there is basically marked out, so you can see which fuses are for what. This here, you don't have. You've got the light, and you've got E1, which is basically an earth. We do that standard on all fuel, on all of the systems. Okay, yours is OBD2, so you've only got an earth there. We leave that in because if you ever want to check any fuses or whatever, it gives you an earth right there. Engine light remains the same, so you've actually got one in the fuse box, and then you've got another one that comes through to your instrument cluster. TEC on your system is not required or not used at all. Yeah, and it's basically as simple as that. So that is the actual power supplies. Coming down here, you've got your ECU. So your ECU was a Land Cruiser. I've been through this on the phone with you, where yours is not a flashable ECU. It's actually exactly the same board, but they change pin numbers and things like that. and they don't give you the boot pin on that flash. So yeah, I replaced your ECU with the Sequoia's ECU, and I've flashed it according to your application. This we've done slightly differently on yours. So we used to just put on two 21-pin connectors. Yours we've given you 4. Well, we've actually put in another one. This is your control unit for your center diff lock and whatnot. Okay, for your transfer case. So that's we'll just put double-sided tape and actually stick it onto the ECU, but I've left it off because, you know, sometimes this can be difficult to fit as it is, and then you can fit this wherever you like. Okay, just as long as that's plugged in. Over here, okay, so what we've done is this one houses your ignition start fuel and your gauges. So you've got your temperature gauge, rev counter, oil light, charge light. Okay, that's basically everything that's on there. You can see when we plug it into our start stand, we only connect up 3 of the wires, and that's fuel, ignition, and start. Okay, the other ones, these 4 are for your instrument cluster. So that is primarily just for engine. Okay, then we have this one over here, which is to do with your transmission. So this is your park, reverse, neutral drive, overdrive, you know, all the lights for your dashboard. And then what we also did here is we've included cruise control. So that comprises of 3 wires. I will supply you a cruise control lever because I think you told me that it went away with the vehicle. Not an issue. I've got those. I'll supply you one of those. Okay. The 6-pin connector over here is all to do with your transfer case. So that'll give you your engagement and whatnot, your center diff lock light, your engage, disengage, all of that stuff. All of that will be in your client plug. And then this last connector is to do with diagnostics. So all of these on this side, these ones, it's 4 wires. We've wired in an OBD2 connector. I've still got my interface plugged in here, but yeah, you've got an OBD2 connector there. You can cut and extend these wires as you please. It's only 4 wires. It's not a big deal. Okay. And then on the other side, you've got things like your speed. You've got your aircon engagement, you know, for your aircon clutch, stuff like that. Okay, so all speed sensor for the aircon. A lot of those you aren't actually going to use, but we just don't want any loose wiring in the harness. And then these 2 over here is also something that you don't need to worry about. We will strap them to your actual harness. These are just junction connectors. Okay, so that's all pretty standard stuff. I think that basically covers everything as far as the engine side goes. Yeah, that covers basically everything on the engine side. And what I'll do is I'll put on the airbox, plug in the airflow meter, and I will put together a startup video for you. Jim, okay, so I've basically plugged in put in the air intake pipe and plugged in the airflow meter. I don't know what you're doing as far as your air intake pipe goes. This is a pretty standard one. I think this comes out of a Sequoia or something. Just make sure that on a 2UZ your airflow meter or the plug will be facing backwards, not frontwards. Okay, on a 3UZ it faces frontwards. So if you get it the wrong way around, it's going to be telling the ECU that there's absolutely no air going into the motor, and therefore it won't give you any fuel at all. So just make sure that is the correct way. This tube running into the air pipe is very important that it's connected, and it's got to go between your throttle body and your airflow meter. Okay, so any air that runs through here is being calculated by the airflow meter, and it will go through this tube. It gets sucked into the right hand valve cover. It's part of the ventilation system. Okay, and what causes all the suction is it comes out of the left hand side through this PCV valve, and what it'll do is it'll actually get sucked into the intake manifold. So it's creating a airflow stream basically through the engine block to keep it clean. So ventilation. Okay, so that's very important that that's connected up like that. This tube is to your fuel pressure, to your regulator. I think that this is, I don't know why Toyota did this, but on this specific model they actually put it into this air box. It doesn't make sense to me because there's no negative, actual proper negative pressure generated in that. So what generally happens is when you're on idle, your intake chamber becomes on a negative pressure. It creates a negative pressure within this, and it drops your fuel. It drops down your fuel pressure because obviously you don't require that kind of pressure when you are just at idle. And then as soon as you touch the accelerator pedal, you lose your negative pressure, and then your fuel will go to full pressure. Okay. So it's very straightforward. They put it on here. I mean, Toyota don't really make mistakes. So I think it was, yeah, I don't know why they would have done that because it doesn't make practical sense that it would be connected there. But yeah, nevertheless. Okay, so let's give her a crank here. That's just ignition. She runs absolutely beautiful. She's actually really wild, very, very fast, acceleration, very, throttle response, very, very, sensitive. Runs beautiful, runs smooth, no problems at all. Okay, you've got no error codes. No, she should all be rock and roll. But if you've got any questions, anything at all, you just give us a shout. We're there to assist you all the way through. Hope you enjoy her. Just wanted to show you this. So we switch on ignition and we do a reading of DTCs, and as you can see, you have no error codes on the system. Okay. But yeah, it's all good.